John Deere 4020. Morning breaks over a flat stretch of Iowa soil. You can see the sun slide up behind a grain bin, gold light rolling across rows of corn. And there, under that first breath of light, sits a John Deere 4020. Paint a little faded now, but that green still means something. It was 1963 when Deere rolled this model off the line in Waterloo, Iowa. Farmers were changing. Farms were growing. Fields were stretching farther. And this machine was built right for the job, a bridge between old iron and the modern age. They called it the new generation of power. It didn't roar like the two cylinders before it, it hummed, smooth and sure. That sound was new, but it still spoke the same language: hard work. Under that long hood sat a 404 cubic inch diesel, 6 cylinders, fuel injected, breathing through a tall stack. It put out about 95 horses at the PTO, and nearly all of them were honest. You could get it with power shift or synchro range, either way, it felt right in your hands. Hydraulics were strong, responsive, and for the time, nearly elegant. The 4020 wasn't light, over 9,000 pounds of steel and grit. But it handled like something alive, eager, and built to last. Farmers said it never argued with a load. You hit the throttle, and it just went. Ask anyone who's driven one, they'll tell you about the way it sounded on a cool morning. A low, even rhythm, steady as a heart. You could smell the diesel, mixed with wet earth and hay dust. The seat would shake just enough to remind you there was power under you, waiting. The 4020 pulled 4 bottom plows like they were nothing. It baled hay, hauled wagons, and filled silos through the long, humid afternoons of the Midwest. And when chores ran past sundown, those twin headlights cut a clear path through the dust. It wasn't fancy, but it never quit. Every farmer trusted the 4020 because it didn't just work, it worked with them. It started on cold mornings when others refused. It drank less fuel, broke down less, and if it did, you could fix it with tools from your own barn. That kind of reliability builds loyalty. Some called it the tractor that changed everything. Others just said, "It's the one I'll never sell." It was tough, honest, and dependable, just like the folks who drove it. Decades later, you'll still find them, green paint dull, seat cracked, but running true. Grandsons climb on to rake hay where their grandfathers once plowed corn. And when that old diesel comes to life, it carries more than power, it carries memory. That steady hum still echoes across the fields. It's the sound of faith in your hands, steel you can trust, and a name that still means something. But before John Deere made green the color of reliability, another shade of red was already carving its legend into the heartland. Farmall M. Dawn in Illinois. You can smell the dew on the hay, and the faint tang of gas from a red tractor that's older than most of the barns around it. The man at the wheel wipes his hands on his coveralls, turns the key, and the Farmall M comes alive again. This was the tractor that brought America out of the war and back to work. When International Harvester introduced it in 1939, farms were still running horses. By the time production ended in 1954, the M had helped turn horsepower into mechanized muscle. It wasn't fancy, but it never quit. And in the red dirt and golden wheat of the Midwest, that meant everything. Under the hood sat a 4-cylinder gas engine, 247 cubic inches of pure purpose. It made about 36 horses at the drawbar, which may not sound like much today. But in those days, that was the difference between a long day and a long week. You could get it on gasoline, distillate, or kerosene, depending on what you had handy. It weighed about 5,000 pounds, steady and sure-footed. The transmission was a 5-speed that clicked and clanked like clockwork. And that steering wheel, big, thin, black, it carried the fingerprints of generations. The M wasn't a fast machine. It moved with the rhythm of the land, steady, patient, dependable. You could hear its heartbeat through the muffler, slow and confident. When you dropped a plow into the soil, you could feel the pull. The front end lifting a hair, the rear tires biting deep. Dust rising in the morning sun, a man and a machine moving as one. The Farmall M did it all, plowing, raking, baling, cultivating. You could hook it to a corn picker or a wagon train, it never complained. Farmers said it didn't have a mean bone in its frame. They loved it because it was honest. Simple enough to fix on a Sunday afternoon, strong enough to last a lifetime. Parts were easy to find, repairs were done with wrenches and willpower. It didn't waste fuel, didn't overheat, didn't quit halfway through a row. You could count on it, and in farming, that meant trust, the kind that runs deeper than words. For many families, the M was the first tractor they ever owned. It pulled their first harvest, hauled their first load of hay, and helped build the barns that still stand today. It worked hard, just like the folks who drove it. Even now, at small-town fairs and antique pulls, you'll hear that old sound again. A low red rumble, proud and familiar. Men stop to listen, nodding slow, remembering. You'll see a father lift his grandson onto the seat, pointing at the IH badge on the grill, saying softly, "This one fed the family before you were born." Decades have passed, paint has faded, but that spirit, that red, beating heart of American farming, still lives on. That steady chug still rolls across the heartland. A sound of work, of faith, of home. But as the 60s rolled in, a new shade of blue started showing up on those same dusty roads. And Ford was ready to prove that a working man's tractor could be both strong and smooth. Ford 5000. Early morning in Ohio. A thin mist hangs over the corn rows, and the smell of diesel drifts through the air. Out by the barn, a farmer in a faded cap turns the key. The Ford 5000 answers with a deep, confident rumble. Blue paint, white grille, and 10,000 stories written in dust. When Ford launched the 5000 in 1965, it wasn't trying to be flashy. It was built for one thing: honest work. Farmers wanted power, but not headaches. They needed a machine that could start every morning and come home every night. And that's exactly what this tractor did. Under the hood was a 4-cylinder diesel with 256 cubic inches of grit. About 70 horses at the PTO, the kind of power that felt real, not advertised. A Selecto-speed transmission was available, but most farmers stuck with the 8-speed manual. Because they liked to feel each gear click into place, like a handshake. Hydraulics were steady, brakes solid, and the frame thick enough to take a lifetime of hard ground. It weighed in at over 6,000 pounds, not heavy, not light, just right for the Midwest fields it served. When you eased the throttle forward, the Ford 5000 answered with a steady pull. The kind that didn't quit until the job was done. Driving a 5000 wasn't about speed. It was about rhythm. You felt the machine move with the land. Tires digging in, engine humming, steering wheel warm in your palms. The diesel note was low and honest. Not loud, Not proud, just steady. That kind of sound stayed with you long after sunset. It hauled wagons full of corn, plowed mile after mile of black soil, and ran balers, sprayers, and spreaders without breaking stride. In the Midwest, that kind of dependability made it a legend. When rain clouds built over the fields and every minute mattered, you knew the 5,000 would still be there waiting, willing. It was simple. No fancy decals, no chrome, no ego. Just blue steel and steady hands. Farmers loved how it started easy, pulled hard, and ran cheap. Maintenance was simple: filters, fluids, and faith. It didn't need pampering, just purpose. Some called it the working man's tractor. Others said it was the best Ford ever built. And both were right. It didn't promise more than it could give. But it gave everything it had, every single day. Today, you'll still see them on small farms, at county fairs, at the edge of cornfields where time moves slow. Paint faded, decals worn, but still alive. Some are hooked to plows again, others just idle at parades, but they all carry that same steady heartbeat. Grandfathers lean against the fender, watching their grandkids take the wheel. That blue paint still shines a little when the sun hits just right. The Ford 5000 didn't make headlines. It made memories. That soft diesel hum still rolls through the Midwest mornings. A reminder that hard work doesn't need to shout. But when the blue tractors settled down for the night, another color, silver and red, was ready to prove what quiet power could really mean. Massey Ferguson 1105. It's 1974 in southern Minnesota. The morning sun is just starting to warm the frost off the fenders. A farmer climbs into the cab of his Massey Ferguson 1105, shuts the door, and for the first time, the world goes quiet. This was a new kind of tractor. Not built just for muscle, but for comfort, control, and long days. It marked a turning point when farming started to blend steel with sophistication. Still, it had the same heart as every good tractor before it. Strong, simple, and ready to earn its keep. Under that silver hood was a Perkins 6.35 4-turbo diesel. 354 cubic inches of smooth, confident power. Around 105 horses at the PTO. With torque that rolled out like thunder down a gravel road. The cab was something new, sealed tight, sound deadened. With air conditioning and a radio humming out country tunes. For farmers who had spent decades eating dust and rain, it felt like a small miracle on 4 tires. The transmission offered 12 forward gears. Enough to handle everything from planting to hauling grain on long autumn nights. Hydraulics were quick, responsive, built for modern implements that were growing bigger every year. The Massey 1105 was not light, almost 10,000 pounds. But every ounce was working steel. Slide into the seat, turn the key. That Perkins diesel starts with a deep, confident growl. Push the throttle and you can feel the turbo breathe. It's smooth, steady, no drama. On the field, the 1105 pulls like it was born for wide open land. It handles a 6-bottom plow without breaking stride. And still feels nimble when backing up to a wagon. Inside the cab, it's quiet, just a low hum and the rhythm of your heartbeat. Outside, dust rises in the sunlight. And from a distance, the silver and red gleam looks almost proud against the sky. It wasn't loud about what it could do, it just did it well. The 1105 earned respect the hard way. By showing up, day after day, without fuss or failure. It sipped fuel, it pulled steady, and when something did go wrong, it could be fixed by the same hands that drove it. Farmers liked the way it felt. Not just powerful, but thoughtful. You could work a 12-hour day and step down from that cab still smiling. They said it was the Cadillac of the fields. But most just called it the best Massey we ever had. It wasn't built for show. It was built for folks who worked too hard to need impressing. Today, you'll find old 1105 still humming across the Midwest. Their paint dulled by sun, their cabs full of stories. Some still work for a living. Others rest in sheds, cleaned and polished every Sunday by men who just can't let go. When that Perkins engine turns over, it's like hearing the voice of an old friend. Steady, honest, and true. The 1105 was the bridge between generations. From open fields to climate-controlled cabs. From sweat and dust to something a little easier, but just as proud. That low, calm rumble still rolls through the heartland. A sound that says progress never forgot where it came from. But before the silver Masseys found their peace, one last legend of orange steel was already writing its name in the dust. A machine that pulled harder than it should, and smiled while doing it. Allis-Chalmers WD45. Evening settles over the fields. The sun's low, painting everything in shades of orange, barns, dust, even the tractor waiting by the gate. It's an Allis-Chalmers WD45, shining like a sunset that never quite fades. When it hit the market in 1953, America was changing fast. Families were growing, farms expanding, and everyone was chasing more acres with fewer hands. Allis-Chalmers saw it coming and built a tractor that could keep up. It wasn't the biggest or the prettiest. But ask any farmer who ran one, and they'll tell you. The WD45 had heart. Under the hood, a 4-cylinder engine, 226 cubic inches. Gas or diesel, your choice, your work, your land. With 39 drawbar horsepower and over 40 at the PTO. It outpulled nearly every tractor in its class. It came with power director, a hand clutch that let you shift on the go. To anyone who'd ever stalled halfway through a row, that was more than a feature, it was freedom. It weighed about 4,000 pounds, light enough to dance across soft soil, but strong enough to pull a plow deeper than you'd think possible. The WD45 was, in every way, built right. If you ever drove one, you remember. That smooth hand clutch, the tall gear lever, the tinny rattle of the hood. The seat bounced just enough to make you feel alive. And that engine sound, a bright, cheerful bark that somehow said, "Don't worry, we'll get it done." You'd see them pulling 2-bottom plows through black Iowa dirt, hauling hay wagons up gravel roads, or idling beside the barn while kids clambered on the fenders. It was quick, nimble, and always ready. The kind of tractor that made work feel almost easy, almost. It wasn't fancy, but it never quit. They loved it because it worked like they did, steady, clever, and tough as nails. It didn't need pampering. You gave it fuel, grease, and a place to rest, that was enough. The power director clutch made it feel ahead of its time. And its fuel economy made it a blessing when every gallon counted. Parts were simple, repairs were honest. It was a machine you could understand and that mattered to folks who built their lives with their hands. For many, the WD45 was their first taste of real horsepower. A partner in every harvest, every storm, every long summer day. Today, that orange still stands out across the county fairs. A little faded, maybe, but glowing like a memory that refuses to rust. Grandkids climb up to the seat, and old men grin like boys again. When that WD45 fires up, it brings a sound you can feel in your chest. Half laughter, half thunder. It's not just an old tractor. It's a reminder of when things were built simple, ran strong, and lasted long enough to see another sunrise. That bright orange hum still floats across the heartland. And so it goes, 5 machines, 5 stories, 1 spirit that built the Midwest. Old iron, honest hands, and fields that never forget. These 5 tractors weren't just tools. They were family. They carried generations, they carried dreams. And even now, they carry memories that smell of diesel and sweet hay. If one of these tractors reminds you of home, share your story below and subscribe for more farm memories. Until next time, keep your hands steady, your heart honest. And may every sunrise find your old iron still humming.